Magic the Gathering's latest set, The Brothers' War, is coming out soon, and they are doing this awesome thing where every single pack will have a retro frame artifact that won't be legal in standard, but there are a lot of awesome reprints. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at the entire list of them and talking about the top 10 most expensive retro frame artifacts in the set that you could pull in your standard boosters. Let's jump right into it. Before I actually tell you any card prices, there are a couple disclaimers I have to make. First off, all of the prices here will be in USD. Second off, they're all from Card Kingdom. They give a pretty consistent price across the board. They're a little higher than most, but it's consistent across videos. And then second off, this is before the set is released. If you're looking at these after the fact, they could either be way higher or way lower depending on when exactly you're looking at it, but they'll generally be in this order, so it'll still be a good list for you to see what are the cards to look out for. Alrighty, number 10, Mishra's Bauble. Mishra's Bauble is a zero-cost artifact that says, tap, sacrifice Mishra's Bauble, look at the top card of target player's library, draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. It's a really good card, especially because it's a zero cost. Zero costs are generally good, but this one's especially good because you're really not paying anything to do it. You're replacing the card, you're getting a little bit of information, and you're playing an artifact, which a lot of decks are going to care about. Right now, it is going for $7.99 in its standard retro frame and $12.99 in its schematic retro frame, which is just a little bit rarer. I expect the price of this one to go down at least in the short term. Either way, it's a great card, and I'm glad they decided to reprint it here. Number 9, Chromatic Lantern. It's a 3-cost artifact that says, lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, and tap, add 1 mana of any color. So it itself taps for any color, and it makes all your lands tap for any color. Right now, the normal retro frame is going for $8.99, and the schematic retro frame is going for $14.99. It's a great inclusion. I hate when mana rocks are expensive, but recently I've really grown to dislike 3-cost ramp spells, especially artifacts like Chromatic Lantern. But again, I don't want ramp to be expensive, so more reprints is good, even if these did just see a reprint in Warhammer 40k. Alright, number 8, Mesmeric Orb. It's a 2-cost artifact that says, whenever a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller mills a card. It's a staple in any mill deck, or even any self-mill deck. It's overall just a really great inclusion. Like a lot of these cards, this is great for lowering prices, especially because standard sets are some of the most opened. Either way, it's going for $9.99 in its standard retro frame or $19.99 in its schematic frame. That's a lot of value that can be added onto a $4 or $5 pack. And so seeing these get printed is really good. I really liked Strixhaven's Mystical Archive, and this is exactly that. Number 7, Defense Grid. It's a 2-cost artifact that says each spell costs 3 more to cast except during its controller's turn. It's a card that's just supposed to make interacting with your board and your turn harder, and overall it does a decent job at it. One of the things I really like is that since these are all artifacts, they can go in a wide variety of decks. This was creeping up there in price, so the reprint is really nice, but right now the standard retro frame is going for $12.99 and the schematic version was going for $19.99. Overall, great value. Alright, number 6, Helm of the Host. It's a 4-cost legendary artifact equipment, and it says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary. That token gains haste. While not super competitive in other formats, in Commander this thing can be a powerhouse, giving you a new version of your commander every single turn. It's been creeping up there in price, and so a reprint is going to bring that down, but it's still going for $13.99 in its normal frame and $27.99 in its schematic form. It's a lot of money. I am excited to see more of these cards out there, and I think the retro frame looks pretty good. Alright, number 5, Aetherflux Reservoir. It's a 4-cost artifact that says, whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Then you can pay 50 life and it deals 50 damage to any target, which normally is your opponent's face. This card is really great in combo decks, storm decks, lots of different decks, as a way to win the game and sustain yourself with life. Overall, it's been creeping up in price just like the rest of these cards, and is now going for $15.99 in its retro frame and $24.99 in its schematic frame. I feel like they did a really good job picking cards, even having some of the uncommons in this set be really good. Obviously, this one's a mythic, so it will show up less, but again, expect prices on these to at least temporarily dip, even in their normal version. For example, the normal version of this right now is going for like $15, so it's actually a little bit more to get the retro frame, and I expect both of those to fall. Alright, next we have Thorn of Amethyst. It's a 2-cost artifact that says non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. And this is a powerful card. It's actually so powerful it's restricted in Vintage. So seeing this get printed is really great. The only other time it's ever been printed is Lorwyn. Either way, right now it's going for about $19.99 in its retro frame and $29.99 in its schematic frame. Another great inclusion. Alright, number 3, Ramos Dragon Engine. This one's a legendary artifact creature dragon 4/4 with flying, and it says, when you cast a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Ramos for each of that spell's colors. So if you cast a 5-color spell, you are going to put 5 counters on him. Then you can remove 5 counters from Ramos and add white, white, blue, blue, black, black, red, red, green, green. Activate only once each turn. This is going to be a pretty popular commander and overall just a very powerful card in general. Currently, the retro frame version is going for $21.99 and the schematic version is going for $39.99. That's insane. Alrighty, number 2, Wurmcoil Engine. It's a 6-cost 6/6 artifact creature worm with Death Touch and Lifelink, and it says, when it dies, create a 3/3 colorless worm artifact creature token with Death Touch and a 3/3 colorless worm artifact creature token with Lifelink. Overall, this thing's the definition of value. A 6/6 for 6 with Death Touch and Lifelink in any color is already good, and then the fact that it's going to split once it dies into 2 different creatures, one with Death Touch, one with Lifelink, is adding on to that value. This is normally a pretty expensive card with its reprint in Double Masters, the original one, already going back up to about $19. Currently, the retro frame version is going to be $23.99 for the standard retro frame and $34.99 for the schematic frame. Again, lots of value. I do find it weird how the schematic frame seems to fluctuate. Sometimes it's in line with the non-schematic frame and sometimes it's not. I'm sure it's based purely on the art. Some people enjoy the schematic frames of some of them more than others, but yeah, pretty interesting to see. Alrighty, and now we have number 1, the most expensive retro frame artifact in the Brothers War, and that is Mox Amber. It's currently going for $42.99, and I can see why. It's another 0-cost artifact, so you know it's going to be good, but it lets you tap and add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control. Free cards are good, that's why the uncommon Mishra's Bauble is on this list, and this is something that is going to repeatedly give you mana. It has only ever been printed in Dominaria as that, and then a promo, and so this will be its first reprint. It will be going down to $42.99, like I said, but the schematic version will be going for $69.99. Nice. But overall, it is an amazing card and will definitely be the card you should be looking out for when opening the set. This looks really, really exciting. Brothers War seems to have a lot of value in it in terms of these retro artifacts. Another thing to note, all of the schematic artifacts also have a serialized version. So for example, Wurmcoil Engine, there are going to be 500 of them that are serialized. So you'll have number 2 out of 500 and no one else in the world will have that. We don't have pricing out on what that's going to look like, but it happens in less than 1% of collector boosters, so I expect those to be very expensive. I may do a follow-up video talking specifically about those when we start getting some pricing details on them. Either way, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little different than my previous top 10 price videos, and I know 3 out of my last 4 videos have been that. I am going to be going back to my normal content here soon. It's just a little bit of a ramp up to get back into that zone. Either way, guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye.